detective, thrill me.
Thanks for joining us for the second episode of the Mad Max franchise. Tonight we'll be covering The Road Warrior. Jared, Maddie, again, here to go through the rest of it. Just a quick little piece of news, Jared. We spoke about this the other day.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that there's reports have emerged about from a $100 million budgeted movie directed by Doug Liman called Chaos Walking.
Yep.
The studio recently considered the cut that they received to be unreleasable.
Yes.
Wow.
The film's $100 million. So they're in the hole $100 million. They've gone back for reshoots. I think it's a couple of weeks worth of reshoots because they reckon they could not make hide nor hair of it.
Wow. Sounds great.
And we are hearing more and more of this stuff. More and more of these movies that are extravagantly budgeted. Like, where's the stage where you can go, like, this script's pretty average. This thing's pretty average. We've spent how much? $2 million to sort of develop it? Let's cut our losses here.
Yeah, well, it's better than, when you're in a $100 million hole, you dig an extra 50 for something that the studio's saying is unreleasable, so you're not going to spend all that money again on pumping it up to advertise it.
Or
so where
do
are you
you just
go
overboard? Do you just go, right, we are $150 million in the hole, we have to market this thing to try and make some money.
Well,
let's pour another 100 on top.
Is that the first thing? That's part of the marketing, right?
First thing someone's going to see when they Google it is unreleasable. So you're not fooling anyone these days, unfortunately.
And the first thing you're going to do is, I need to see this.
The days of LL Cool J yucking it up on Letterman, talking about how he fooled us all when he was advertising Rollerball and doing the media circuit for Rollerball. You can't get away with that anymore.
Basically, what do you do here? You're $100 million in the hole.
You don't spend $100 million on an untested picture, surely.
No.
You give it to Blumhouse, get them to make it for 15, and then you live or die with what you got.
We said this before. Hellboy had the same problems, right? There was supposedly issues on set and everything. Hellboy has turned out to not make much money either. I mean, I believe its opening weekend was very light, but
it's got some competition.
But it's got a $50 million budget.
But it had a week's head start.
Still,
it had a $50 million budget. Right, you can wear that a little better than 100.
Well, it's a $50 million budget on a property that's got a small inbuilt fan base that will make you some money.
Now, Chaos Walking is based on some sort of novel.
Yeah, I think it's a young adult novel, possibly.
And did they not realise that went out the window like 6 years ago, the young adult?
Well, I mean, all that stuff's just waiting for the next big one to restart the bloody... it's all this shit goes in cycles.
I know, but when they started filming this... They were unable to finish the Divergent series. They didn't end the Divergent series, and it made money to start with, and then it fell off a cliff. They didn't even get to the last book. I think that when I'm developing that movie, I'm going,
Well, I guess that's where the budget comes in. You probably look at that as part of your expectations.
And you go, $30 million.
Divergent's really trampled all over this, like. It happens. That'll drop off again until the next Hunger Games or the next Harry Potter relights the fire and people want to see that stuff again.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as you said, if you got a script that is good and you green light it, how the fuck do you go to unreleasable as the next step
with $100 million behind it
and good people involved? Like, I think Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley are the two actors, and as you said, Doug Liman
has made a habit of making movies that are not in good shape, and then they somehow come out all right. They even mentioned The Bourne Identity. They said that was not very well received when it was first put in to the studio. So he knows his way around good filmmaking.
Yeah, I don't know.
I reckon this is just one of those things where someone got excited about it and they couldn't differentiate the fact that $100 million is not a fair outlay for this. Like, you've got to be smart and you've got to risk assess and say this is not going to make those kind of dollars.
Yeah.
So we need to pull it back. Make a smaller film out of it.
I don't know.
Maybe they thought they had a $1 billion budget and they still had more to spend.
Yeah.
They blew it all on the set.
Strange.
Well, let's put it this way. It's not on my it's not on my must-see list.
No.
All right, well, let's...
it might be if it's still considered unreleasable and they release it, then it might be
a lot of money.
On my must-see list.
I could teach myself everything about film for $100 million and make something better.
Yeah, just
something releasable.
Well, yeah, I feel that with half that budget, we could make something that was releasable. I mean, it would be shit, but we'd get it released.
Let's face it, anything's releasable.
Amazon Prime would be all over it.
Amazon Prime would be bloody knocking down our door to get the rights. You can't release it there.
Is that a challenge? We better get on Patreon and start, GoFundMe and start making $30 million to make a releasable film.
Listen for the details of the
episode.
episode,
guys. GoFundMe page. We need $30 million so we can make a movie. Yeah. All right, well, let's take it. I suggest none of us are putting that down on our list. But, look, put it this way. If it does get released and comes out and it's terrible, we'll be talking about it on here. It's not long after.
Yep.
All right, let's take a break. Here's the trailer for Mad Max 2, a.k.a. The Road Warrior.
This is what it has come to.
Look! Out there! They're coming back! Come on, move it!
Here is where it shall be decided.
There it is. Greetings from the Humongous.
In a world without gas.
The Humongous rules the wasteland.
I'm gravely disappointed that you wish to take the gasoline out of the wasteland.
Defend the fuel.
We'll never walk away!
Give me the pump, the gasoline, the whole compound.
This is a land that prays for a hero.
Well, if anyone's gonna get in there, it's gonna be you.
This is Mad Max 2. Max,
It's a long time since I've seen driving like that, man.
the warrior of the road.
You're okay by me, pal.
Gotta hand it to you, Trish. The last of the V8 interceptors.
Every day we get weaker while they get stronger.
You want to get out of here? You talk to me. Now, to do the job, I need some high-octane gasoline.
Got yourself a deal.
You can run, but you can't hide!
You're gonna crash or crash through?
I was wrong about you. I'm sorry.
When it's every man for himself. And there's no place left to run. When all that's left is one last chance. Pray that he's still out there. Somewhere. Mad Max 2.
The Road Warrior from 1981. Directed by George Miller, produced by Byron Kennedy, and the screenplay is by George Miller, Terry Hayes, who did Dead Calm, and Brian Hannett, who wrote Tom Burlinson movie, The Time Guardian. I remember watching that back in the 80s. I believe it cropped up in Not Quite Hollywood too. There's a bit of a steamer. It stars Mel Gibson as Mad Max, Emil Minty as the feral kid, Bruce Spence as the gyro captain, and Vernon Wells as Wes. Budget was $2 million, and it made $23 million in the US.
Jeez.
And Mel only has 16 lines of dialogue in the entire film.
One of them's repeated, isn't it?
I just came for the gasoline, yeah. So he obviously doesn't have a lot to say. All right, I'm going to go first on this one. a rare sequel that's better than the original in pretty much all aspects. It's better polished, but yet not polished so much that they take away that rawness and the landscape and everything that's there. It builds on the already established sort of very bare bones mythology, but it doesn't lose sight of those action scenes. I mean, honestly, in my opinion, the third act on the tanker is one of the greatest action scenes of all time, I reckon. But the film is just, it's tight, it's A to B, and it's visceral as anything. 4.5 for me.
Yeah, I'm the same. I kind of look at it a bit like sort of Evil Dead 1 and 2, where in a lot of ways it's a do-over, but with the cash you didn't have the first time around.
Yeah.
So yeah, they continue the story, but they repeat a lot of the elements, and as you said, they don't lose sight of what made the first one so good. But they expand that world. They obviously had the money to come up with a set that they were able to make it look far more into that kind of post-apocalyptic setting.
Was that also shot in Australia?
Yeah, I think it was South Australia somewhere. I think. Don't quote me. But the thing I like about it though is these nothing characters they've actually got little bits and pieces that kind of create this backstory for them that you sort of have to fill in yourself. So they're not nothing characters. They're not just henchmen and
random weirdos.
They are random weirdos. They're random weirdos with a backstory. Like for example, you get this sense of Vernon Wells and this other guy, and you're not exactly sure about what the relationship is, but it kind of builds up this character, even though you get very little out of him. There's no dialogue between those two.
No, but you get a sense of emotion when something happens.
Yeah, same with Lord Humongous. Like, you don't get a lot from him, but you understand there's one shot where he's clearly burned or something. Yeah. So you understand, okay, there's probably a reason for the mask. And then there's his gun, which suggests he's possibly a military, or he had family that were military or something. You get these little bits that kind of build this world out. And whilst keeping Max to a perfect amount. Like, as you said, he doesn't have a lot of lines, but you get his interactions with his dog and the feral kid that are all you need. If you've seen the first movie, you've got all you need, you know?
Yeah.
I reckon it's 4.5 for me.
Hey?
Yeah, I haven't got any major complaints with it. The entertaining, like you said, that last act is phenomenal. And you can see they've taken parts of this one and rolled with it in the future ones, especially in Fury Road. The best parts of this one they've taken out. The plot flows through. There's payoffs. They build things up, and then you just see the futility in a bit of it right at the end. And it just makes it so good. Yeah. Again, it's those bit characters that make it just that little bit more quality, and it keeps your attention the whole time. I'm happy with the 4 for that one.
4. Again, the opening line is the action scenes are
just unbelievable.
Bloody hell!
I just feel like for the first one, the second one, and the final one, that I feel like that it's part of this mythology of Mad Max. The third one, it turns into they've got some random sci-fi apocalyptic script and just chucked Mad Max into it.
Yeah.
Like if he's only saying 16 lines in it, that's all you don't need him talking. It's him looking out for himself, and
because these movies are primarily
with a bit of character development around
action and reaction.
Yeah, and it's ingrained. You've got to move across this fucking vast expanse in cars at some point.
That's it.
Yeah. And you've got to have a 20-minute action.
And as you're watching it, you've got this whole folklore about he's honoured his contract or whatever, and it just adds to the whole building of this world.
Yeah, absolutely. But the action scenes is just... I love they actually spread the scope a little bit. You got some bigger action scenes. You got some non-car related action scenes. Like I love the raid on the camp where Humongous's crew try and hit it and try and take it out.
Yep.
There's a couple of huge explosions. Like they throw a bit of that in.
The cars too. Like obviously they've got more money to spend, so you've got a wider variety and more cars.
Yeah,
so
like you see it from aerial views, and there's like 7 or 8 cars.
Yeah, Humongous' crew looks really intimidating, especially when Max is looking up there from the rock, and all you can see is what looks to be this little settlement in this kind of vast expanse, and then Humongous' crew just seem so overbearing because they got, and then they could stylize the cars a little bit too, which they didn't get as much chance to in the first one, I suppose. But all that stuff just equaled, when the action was on, it was great.
Yeah, and as I said, that last 20 minutes is just everything's happening.
It's definitely,
and the pure logistics of getting that done on a $2 million budget in the fucking outback.
Yeah.
Would have been a bloody filmmaking bloody hell.
Imagine if they gave imagine if they gave
little regard for life. Honestly, in the trivia for IMDb, one of the pieces said one stuntman was advised not to eat 12 hours before his stunt in case he needed to be rushed to surgery. There's also the
but nothing's going to happen, right?
The one where the guy flipped over end to end. He hits a car and then he flips over. Yeah. He was supposed to jump the car, but he hit it and busted his leg. But they said you looked so impressive coming off the bike, going end over end. But that's the shot we used.
You might have been hurt, but
it was, and they show on the DVD I had. Actually, it's on YouTube as well. They show a little kind of making of, and everyone kind of rushes to his aid. Then they show the shot from the film, and it's him just fucking flipping end over end after his.
I bet you got a lot of work. We want you to do that flippy thing you did.
Yeah, could you do that kind of that?
George Miller,
the phone gets hung up.
I see George Miller walking around the set, go, walk it off.
Rub some dirt into it.
Yeah, we're on a bloody deadline here. Get your ass in. Imagine getting that call, though. They're making another Mad Max movie. Oh, shit.
I just recovered from the last one.
I really need you. Pagey's on board. It's like, oh, shit. I've got other things on, mate.
You're not making another Happy Feet by chance, are you?
Can you make this animated?
Look, I can do some bloody stunt work for Lorenzo's Oil. If that's what you need. I think the acting's a lot better here.
Yeah.
Again, you got a few more seasoned people like
Cookie.
Cookie at country practice in an apocalyptic world. Still the same bloke.
It's absolutely Cookie.
So Wanted Valley is an apocalyptic world.
He was the lone survivor of Wanted Valley. Found himself in the midst of this, this gas pumping.
Seriously, if he had a choice between dealing with the Humongous or Bob Hatfield, he'd probably rather deal with the Humongous. Oh, God. Mel Gibson is much more self-assured in the role and actually gives it a nice touch of. He's a mix of being tough but also real world weary.
I thought he was going to pinch your word, Matty. I thought he was going to go for the pathos.
No. But he looks like world weary and stuff, and he mixes it really nicely.
Yeah,
it feels like it's dialogue. It's a bit further down the track, and he's been a bit weathered by this world.
He's been out in the world, knifing blokes left and right, and driving over him in his bloody souped up. I love that car, by the way, and also the switching from petrol to gas, isn't it? Isn't that what he switches over? In the car. Does he flick is it a gas that puts it on a gas powered?
He's searching for the gun underneath the car.
Yeah, no, that was the booby trap device. Yeah. But I do like that bit where he reaches for the knife and he's like, bloke like you would have a weapon under there. Might have to pin your head to the. He lets it go. For the most part, the acting's pretty good in this one. Again, not a lot to work with because the plot is not super fleshed out and the character's not super fleshed out.
There's a bit of overacting by the bikies.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's part and parcel.
It's well, they have to. I mean, look at the costumes.
Yeah.
You can't be normal in them. But yeah, it's basically
Murder World does a bit of screaming and stuff. It's a bit
It's. I mean, this one, it's just like those samurai or western pics. You know, like the little town that's being hounded by someone,
bad guys,
and then the lone fucking wanderer comes in and helps them out. But again, you've got enough of that. That's not what we're here for. We're here for we get those little interactions, and if you do them well enough, then the 20-minute action sequence is just, the cherry on that's the cherry on top of the 20-minute action sequence.
Yeah. Well, just the things I don't know. The things that I really like about this one is those moments where you're in a serious scene. So, for example, they're confronting about, we're going to break down into your town and we're gonna take what you have.
Yeah.
So you do it peacefully and we won't kill you all, or you're in trouble. But then you've got this little monkey kid coming out, throwing this boomerang, and then everyone's just pissing themselves because this guy's lost half his head.
And he kind of laughs along with the joke. He's holding his head and he's grinning.
But it's like there's these cock-ups happening, but that's as serious as this world is. Like it's just the parts where you're trying to be serious and aggressive, I guess, can be overrun with this comedy, and it's still it's just how it works in this world.
Yeah, I also like that in lieu of Max saying having any dialogue whatsoever, basically, they kind of use the feral kid for him to kind of bounce off.
Yeah.
To get his kind of feelings about the situations out, and the fact that he can't connect with anyone. I mean, he connects with the kid who grunts and doesn't speak more than anyone in the camp.
They only use a couple of sequences. The bit where he uses the music box and the kid gets all excited. And then the sequence where he's out in the wilderness in the dark with the jerry cans, and then he gets in a bit of pulp. There's another gang there on his hammer, and the feral kid comes out and helps him.
Yeah.
Leads him back.
Yeah.
But you're right about this. There's a little thread of comedy running through some of it.
Yeah.
Which gets to silly levels in the next one.
But the sequence involving when he's out in the wilderness with the jerry cans, he's lugging those 4 jerry cans. They're super heavy, and he comes across the gyro captain. Next thing the gyro captain's carrying the shit. He's chained to Max. And then my favourite sequence is the conversation between the head of the camp and the guy, the mechanic. And they're both using intermediaries.
Yeah.
He keeps sort of explaining it to the bloody thing's knackered, and this bloke goes, she's knackered.
He seems to make a gag about his teeth too, because he says, there's two of these are cracked and missing, as he's talking about it. I believe he's the same bloke from the first one too, isn't he? The dude on the farm.
Yeah, on the farm, yeah.
I think.
Could be him, yeah.
But yeah, that scene, I was in stitches.
It's just full of, once again, interesting little characters.
Yeah.
And they take up limited time, but it means the story's not about Max.
Yeah. And it's not about...
Max doesn't become we have to have him in every sequence.
It's so satisfying when he's in it, because you've had all this other stuff going on, and you're like, now I can focus on what's going to... on the action.
And I mean, I haven't watched Fury Road in a couple of years, but I believe Fury Road's set up in a similar way. You've got little characters, and then you've got Max and Furiosa.
Yeah.
But they're not on screen all the time.
Yeah.
And so same sort of thing applies with that one, that this one does really, really well. And even down to Humongous, who's only, couple of sequences?
Yeah, he's not in a lot.
But he's got a menace about him.
Yeah.
As I said, he bedazzled his bloody leather cock protector. But
even the look is so, it's iconic. I mean, there's still bloody... As soon as that came out, the old bloody wrestling territories were copying the costume and had Lord Humongous as a character. It's just, they see something that
seemed to work, and it did. And I really felt that most of the characters sort of fit, and it worked out really well.
Yeah.
I also like that... Vernon Wells was actually pretty good in this, and he was in better shape than he was in Commando. But the fact that he's got a mohawk and arseless chaps from start to finish, I couldn't stop laughing. There's one part I think where he jumps on a truck and dead set. You can almost see the bloody the dot.
Yeah, what though? That was in my dislikes. No one needs to see him in arseless chaps, but I can tell you,
I couldn't stop laughing when I would see it.
I didn't realise he was in arseless chaps initially, and then he gets off his bike, and I'm like, Jesus, Vernon. Did you read the brief? What they were asking you for? I actually like the opening recap.
Yeah,
where you get the voiceover and they give a small understanding of why we're in post-apocalyptic world. Yeah, the machines, they break down and everything like that. Then we get some flashbacks quickly of the first film.
Yeah.
So we catch up.
They break your heart again.
Yeah. And they just give you the quick sort of synopsis over a couple of minutes. And they use that. I like that sort of old grizzled guy telling the story. It feels like, like campfire story or something, And the way that story ends up, that was the last time we saw him. He ruled the wilderness or whatever it says, It's just a really cool way to sort of have it, like bookended by this kind of story that they're telling. I love the gyro guy. I love the fact he's setting a trap too.
Yeah,
he's buried in it to his ass in bloody sand.
He's, as you said, he provides sort of an element of comedy, but he does a bit of the talking sometimes. Like he's talking at Max a lot of times, and he sort of mirrors Max in a couple of ways. Like they're different, but he also has this, for whatever his motives are, I've got to help as well. We're a team, and kind of makes this connection and whatever.
And I really like that, and I actually liked bringing the gyrocopter in.
Yeah,
gave us a bit of over. You could see there was a few more shots up above.
A couple of really nice shots from that, but it also gives him this kind of safe place to do his fucking giggles and carry on.
Isn't that nice who he grows into though? He starts to try to pick up that girl.
Yeah.
He's got no hope. By the end of it, she's hanging off his arm.
Yeah, that's right. Again, they quickly establish how bad the gang is when they pretty much rape and pillage that pair out in the. They're watching it through the
the telescope's being switched with binoculars.
I love that.
That's a great way to show the status.
Old mate pulls out the telescope and he looks up and goes, give it here.
Give me that.
It's just, again, it's a primitive way of doing it, and I don't necessarily always agree, and I think you've said in the past, if you're using rape as a kind of a device to make someone want to get exact revenge, but in this case you're talking about this lawless land, and that was the idea I think behind it.
It's sort of people reverting to these kind of savage instincts and things like that. So and again, in this one, it's not necessarily gratuitous. It's just kind of implied.
And I think
I'm still not a fan of it as a device. I think it's just an easy crutch. It even seems to be for Miller, who's an intelligent dude and an excellent filmmaker. I think it sounds like a cop out to say, but it is sort of a product of the time at that point, that it was just accepted part of.
And look, thankfully it's not gratuitous, and they move on from it.
It redeems it a little bit by having a powerful female character in there as well.
Yeah, the warrior woman.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's been pretty good at that. Mostly, I mean, Furiosa, for example, is just awesome, and she's. I think it does reflect a little bit of the time and what he was going for, as you said. I'm glad we've moved on from that being a kind of crutch.
I agree. And again, it felt difficult to watch, which is the intended moment of it, but still. I see where they got the hood ornaments from Fury Road. They had a couple of blokes tied up to the front of some wagon they had in this one.
That's
too.
right, yeah.
They were on there for some time too. Bloody hell.
Oh man, Maddie mentioned futility, and I think one of the parts that kind of does that for me is the fact that when Cookie pulls out the brochure of where they're going, it's the Sunshine Coast. And it's kind of like, oh,
that was great.
But it's sort of, it seems intentional for a bit of that kind of purpose, but it's quite a little, again, it's a little bit of the, it's a dark kind of comedic moment again.
Good on you, Cookie.
Cookie.
How did he not get more work after that? A big star in Hollywood. He should have been.
Oh, you would have thought he punches his ticket after this.
I was also a huge fan of this whole sequence where Max basically tells him, look, they say, listen, we want you to drive the truck. And he's like, no, I'm leaving. And then he basically just shuts him straight down, I'm leaving, that's it. Then he gets out on the road, he's immediately attacked, and they bring in the bomb, the booby trap, which is going to be there. You know it's going to happen. But when it comes, it's quite, you kind of punch the air a little bit because he's in the real shit at that stage.
Yeah.
And then it just goes off and blows the pair of them up. And then he's suddenly back in the, he comes back and he says, I'm going to drive the truck.
Mm. And you kind of, part of you is like, you kind of wanted him to do it for the right reasons, but then part of you still, he doesn't want to connect with anyone. He's still scarred by what happened with his family, and he's just doing it because he doesn't have another means now.
Yeah.
But you're kind of hopeful that, he is doing it for the right reasons, and it gets to that point where that's what it is, like through what he shows, through those sequences, and he shows the care for the kid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It all brings that kind of back, but it's just pretty well played throughout.
Yeah. And then that final 20 minutes, it is just, everything is happening.
Oh, they're throwing everything.
Cars are getting run into everything.
Yeah.
Including the two hood-on-us. They tear up the backside of the tanker.
Yeah. They rip through a couple of his people as well.
Yeah.
That it's not, we're getting out of this unscathed. It's like,
it's definitely sacrifice. But even just parts of the truck falling off, or parts of the defense system on the truck falling off and turning into nothing, you're just like, it's like things are unraveling slowly.
Yeah.
I love the people on the poles as well, and they reuse it,
which they reuse massively in Fury Road, but it started here.
So good.
They even did it in the first one. Remember the dude on the tanker when Tokata's crew jumps on the bloody tanker. It was
It just throws everything in there, and in a way, it builds up to that sequence. The action's not super over the top in the first hour. Like, it's not tons and tons of action scenes. There are nice little jolt moments for a couple of minutes and they grab you. And then they just deliver 20 minutes, where most of the time, when I get a 20-minute action scene, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's enough.
Bloody hell. Like, why does it got to go on for this long? But this was just... Because everything's... None of the action scenes seemed repetitive.
No.
Like, at no stage did I think...
They're different kinds of action scenes, right?
Geez, we've seen this before.
Yeah.
They were all slightly different, and that 20 minutes is just encompassing all of it.
And it's like, unlike modern action where you have to chop after half a second or something like that, you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Because they stay with extended shots when they need to, so you can get a sense of who's in what car, who's jumping on here, who's
slipping over, who's
broken their leg. Yeah, you just know exactly what's happening. There's never a moment of, shit, who's that? And where did they go? Or like, it's just all coherent. And it's just, again, I've used the term a number of times, but it's fucking exhilarating.
Yeah, the old adrenaline's pumping and the bloody sphincter's puckering. And I just love the end, that he was essentially a decoy.
Yeah. And
he kind of laughs when he realises they basically used me.
Yeah.
And it's just such a... It's kind of... I forgot about that. And so when you see the tanker spilling out the stuff, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Quality twist, right?
Sad. It's just such a great...
So was he the decoy or did he know?
No, he did. I don't think he did.
I don't think he knew.
No.
Yeah, because I was a bit confused. I got the sense of you know, he doesn't care if he is or not. But I didn't know whether he'd actually been informed. And that was kind of why he laughed. It was kind of in his head, he's thinking, I would have done it. I would have done that too.
Yeah. Maybe he did realise. He already was aware. And
I'm pretty sure it's what you guys are saying, that he was just a decoy.
Yeah.
Well, also my favourite bit is get the bloody shotgun shell off the front of the truck. And then fucking Big Bernard Wells comes flying out and asks hanging in the wind. And he gets ploughed into another car head on. Like, it's like, what? Who's coming up with this?
The kid's excitement too when he blows the bloke off the roof and that. The kid's sitting there going, he's jumping up and down. And
that's right, he shoots one bloke across there and then just goes bam through the roof. It's just fantastic stuff. And I think once again, I love that bit at the end with telling the story because it feels like Max is he's a folklore tale.
Yeah.
You know? He's not real.
Yeah.
He's a story that they tell about.
You know, it's the ultimate kind of. It's the ultimate again. Going back to the westerns and the samurai, is the drifter. You know?
Yeah.
He doesn't stay.
Man with no name, sort of.
Yeah.
Thing.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think that stuff, like that whole back end, is just brilliant.
Yeah.
Any other likes?
That was most of mine, I think.
Matty?
The fact that the guy's upset when his boyfriend's had the boomerang chucked into him. He doesn't quite know how boomerang works.
Yeah, that's right. He just charges over.
That cracked me up.
You see, I think it was an interview with George Miller. He actually said it was supposed to be like a father-son thing.
Oh, really?
That he'd found this kid and kind of raised him.
Right.
It also lent it some kind of credit that it was, if it was the relationship that I thought it was.
Yeah.
It's kind of like to put that into an action film at that time.
Oh, yeah. It's way ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time. You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, dislikes. Vernon Wells, Arseless Chaps. Never happen again.
Definite like.
There's a couple of night sequences that are probably too dark. I couldn't see what was actually happening when he leaves the compound for the first time. Yeah, there's a couple.
The one
he's
where
wandering around, there's a gang there, but I'm like,
yeah,
those people.
The one where he's got the jerry cans too was a little bit dark.
Couldn't really tell.
It didn't happen often, but I get where you're going there. I got one about Lord Humongous. It seemed like perhaps that the audio was dubbed.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was, but there was a couple of times where he was kind of seemed to be acting with his hands. Then he'd say something and he'd kind of put his hands up and wave them a couple of seconds afterwards or something, and I was just like, I get the impression that he wasn't actually saying that at that time. It just didn't look like it. So yeah, I don't know if Lord Humongous was as accomplished an actor as I think yes, obviously he was there for his physique.
Physique, yes.
Worked on his figure.
Yeah, he was. He was in solid dick, the big fella. One of my favourites, Vernon Wells doing a forward somersault into Pike on the top of the bloke. Like when they're trying to raid the place. Yeah. I started laughing.
As if he couldn't do that though.
Then he headbutts him because he was into headbutting blokes.
Yeah.
Ad nauseum. But it just looked ridiculous. He kind of does this huge flip and then into a sort of a half twist or something as he's coming down. Ridiculous. I don't like seeing animals get killed. I'm not a fan of having the dog killed.
No.
I think it would have been cool to keep the dog.
Yeah, the dog was... I liked the dog. Yeah, I think it would have been good if he had if Max had have continued on with the dog.
Yeah.
We had seen him in the next films, but yeah.
No, they had...
Disappointing.
They have to give him nothing. They have to...
Strip him
down again.
Yeah. And have him with a,
Couldn't they have killed Gyro Captain instead? I like the dog boy. No, he was... Gyro Captain was actually really good. I remember
that scene where the kids come down the hole.
Yeah.
And he's like, go on. What are you... It's like blows off the kid after everyone's about to come down the hole.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that about him.
Initially when I watched it, I didn't quite see him as all that important.
Yeah.
Whereas this time around, I was like, he was kind of essential. So.
Yeah.
I also loved when he was trying to get the fucking scraps from the dog food can.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the dog's barking at him.
And the dog's
gnarly.
like, yeah, and he's like, yeah.
You can have it.
The last thing for me was I think they were kind of like backlit shots or something of when the gyro captain's gyro gets hit and he's coming down. They have some close-up shots. The effects, I don't know how they would have done it back then.
Oh, they would have crashed a real. Red Page would have said, "I'll go up."
They would have just picked it up 20 feet in the air and just dropped it. But it was like a special effects type of thing.
Yeah.
And it looked pretty ordinary.
No, they did it from a little bit further away, which was kind of the sense that, you know, it's the outlier. It's not, they didn't get two cars and crash them together for real. They just, I don't know how they did it actually, but they crashed something. I thought maybe it was a remote control one initially, but then there's a car in the shot as well, which makes it seem like it's a real full scale thing. So I don't know how they did it,
but it just it ended up looking really bad.
Yeah.
It just sort of stuck out amongst all this real carnage. Then you've got this shot and these shots of the gyro going down that look so kind of out of place. And they just look like shit. I would rather they drop Grant Page from 10 metres up.
He'd have been up for it.
Yeah, he wouldn't have eaten for 12 hours prior to doing it. Any other dislikes? People?
I didn't really have much.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of real standout
There's nothing
things.
noticeable. There's nothing where you just like, that doesn't make any sense to me. I enjoyed it. It was just like easy to watch.
No, I mean, red mohawks and arseless chaps made perfect sense.
Yeah.
You know, when you can't get a can of gasoline, you can still get some hair dye.
They even added to the menace because they look like complete idiots.
Yeah.
But they still...
The costumes are just one of those elements of the movie that's just like you wouldn't have it any other way.
Yeah, you can't get a gallon of gasoline, but you can get eyeshadow. I don't know where you're getting it from, but I mean, in a lawless land, there's still a fetish shop somewhere.
We can weld up, metal masks made to order.
All right, that's The Road Warrior. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify and Podomatic. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. Like us on Facebook, Thrill Me Podcast Australia. And at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com. We're also on Instagram at thrillmepodcast.au. The next episode will be the third film in the series, Beyond Thunderdome. I think there's a little bit of... I'm hearing some rumblings that's not as good.
Yeah, if Gibbo's here, it'll be 4 men enter, 1 man leaves.
The Master Blaster will be involved. But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.